playing with virtual explosions is an intriguing pastime. On screen, cities blowing up and fireballs biting the sky seem like pure spectacle. There's a seduction in the graphics, shockwaves like ripples in water, radiation reduced to a colored filter. But outside the game, things aren't special effects. The reality of a nuclear weapon isn't a flash to admire. It's something that enters people's lives without asking permission and tears them from their foundations. Let's try to understand this with a simple and honest thought experiment. Let's not imagine total war. Let's think of a single detonation in a large metropolis, today, on any ordinary day. Let's assume a weapon in the range of a few hundred kilotons detonated in the air at an altitude optimized to maximize damage to buildings. It's morning. There are people clocking in at work, rushing to the subway, waiting for coffee at the counter. The city flows. Then suddenly, a white flash. That first instant lasts less than a heartbeat. A sphere of plasma hotter than the surface of the sun is born, expanding into an enormous fireball. Inside, everything vanishes. It doesn't burn, it disappears. From outside, the fireball comes light, so intense it saturates the world in a flash. If you look at it, you can remain blind for hours. That light carries heat, a thermal pulse that, depending on the power and direct visibility, ignites flammable materials kilometers away. Plastic, fabrics, wood, paper, and yes, skin and hair. One moment you're on the sidewalk, the next you find yourself in flames. Where there's shadow or shelter, the difference between life and death can be the position of a body, the angle of a street, a fold in a coat. Then comes the second act, which enters the scene a few seconds later. The air around the fireball has been compressed and superheated. It expands at supersonic speed. It's the shockwave. The pressure crushes windows and facades, tears off doors, overturns cars. At close range, structures collapse like houses of cards. Farther away, they resist, but with deep wounds. Even reinforced concrete buildings can withstand part of the impact, but stairs, floors, windows, and partitions collapse. In parks, charred trees snap like matchsticks. In the open, standing upright is like being in front of a monster's mouth. The wind pushes you, drags you, hurls you. The wave continues to race, and while weakening, it brings down roofs and walls over a vast area. Glass shatters well beyond the central zone. That's why those who look out to sea or photograph the mushroom cloud end up within range of a storm of invisible blades. Gas stations explode, pipelines break, sparks and embers ignite new fires. Within minutes, the city breathes smoke. From the column of debris rises the classic mushroom. It's not a symbol, it's a suction tube that swallows fresh air and feeds the fires. If there's enough fuel, warehouses, furnishings, vehicles, facades, isolated fires can merge into a firestorm, an inferno that creates its own winds and burns everything it finds, including the oxygen that survivors would need. From here on, the story changes depending on where, how, and with what power the explosion occurred. An air burst produces less local fallout compared to a ground burst, but less doesn't mean little. The column carries contaminated dust and ash, and the wind draws a long and irregular trail. The so-called black rain can begin within minutes or hours. It's deceptive because it has no smell or threatening form. It settles on roofs, sticks to clothes, enters lungs. Those who remained outdoors without protection in areas of high fallout deposition receive radiation doses that, added to the initial ones, transform the aftermath into an invisible obstacle course. Meanwhile, the city is no longer a city. Roads are blocked, bridges damaged, railways deformed. The electrical grid has collapsed. Phones don't work, water doesn't reach the upper floors. Hospitals near the epicenter are unusable or without sufficient staff. Doctors, nurses, technicians, drivers, they too were in line at traffic lights, at work, alive. More distant facilities are overwhelmed by the influx. Thousands and thousands of injured with extensive burns, trauma, eye injuries, bodies riddled with fragments. Triage becomes an impossible choice. Who gets oxygen? Who gets the operating room? Who gets a stretcher? There's no supply that's enough, no protocol that holds up for long. For those who survived the initial phase, the following days are a cruel calendar. Acute radiation syndromes don't all arrive together. Nausea, exhaustion, fever, then an apparent recovery that deceives, finally infections and organ failures. Many don't make it. For those who instead overcome the first wave, time becomes a suspended variable. Months or years later, the risks of cancers like leukemia and other neoplasms increase. Children and pregnant women are more vulnerable. Psychological trauma, insomnia, nightmares, anxiety crosses every age. Yet, in this map of pain, there are gestures that save. Moving away from windows as soon as you see the flash. Getting on the ground and protecting your head to avoid the shockwave. Seeking shelter in interior places, underground if possible, away from windows and doors. If you were outdoors during fallout, removing outer clothing and washing skin with soap and water reduces contamination. These aren't solutions, they're margins of survival, and they matter. This is where the spectacle ends, and only substance remains. A single nuclear detonation combines the effects of the great disasters we know, earthquakes, fires, industrial accidents, and amplifies them. There is no rescue system in the world capable of assisting instantly every victim. It's not cynicism, it's mathematics. That's why every honest discussion about nuclear weapons cannot stop at deterrent or security. Because deterrent means that, to feel protected, we threaten others to experience what you just imagined. And it takes little to flip the table. A miscalculation, a misinterpreted alarm, the impulsive decision of very few. Recent history reminds us, near-miss crises, exchanges of accusations, muscular rhetoric. Technology improves, but human fallibility doesn't disappear. The chain that leads from threat to catastrophe has strong links and weak links. Just one wrong one needs to break. And when it breaks, there are no political or cultural boundaries that hold. Nuclear weapons aren't someone's. They're against everyone. But there's another path, already started in concrete. Treaties, commitments, civil society movements demanding the ban and elimination of these weapons. In 2019, many states chose to declare that the problem isn't who possesses them, but what they are. Inherently indiscriminate tools, morally unacceptable, that transform entire areas into traps for generations. That road isn't easy, isn't short, and above all, doesn't advance on its own. It needs an informed, demanding public opinion, capable of pressuring governments so that promise becomes practice. If this story made you stop and think for a moment, if you believe that on such topics we cannot limit ourselves to looking the other way, help us take this message further, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's a simple gesture, but it serves to grow a community that demands seriousness, transparency, and responsibility on what truly decides our future. In the end, the attraction to explosions belongs to games. In real life, the only spectacular scene we should desire is one where these weapons disappear from the script. Not out of abstract goodness, but out of concrete clarity, so that no city ever resembles our city on that imagined day, and so that here and now continues to mean work, school, routine, life.